Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Watching Sylvia buff the team while Lyrica dashed towards the boss, Shiro couldn't help but notice her clear increase in speed and body control. While she ran, she kept her posture steady so that she could react better in any situation. Oh, not bad, Shiro thought with a smile. She couldn't help but also notice a few of the more talented individuals. There were some that would flicker continuously while slash marks would suddenly appear on the boss's body. Whenever they're about to get hit, Sylvia's barrier would block them from danger. Yo, Missy, your reaction's pretty on point. Why don't you work with me from now on? I can guarantee that you'll get a good wage every week. The man grinned while deflecting one of the boss's fists. No thanks, I'm fine with the team that I have right now. Sylvia declined with a smile. Ah, such a shame. Though if you ever want to discuss it, I'm more than happy to give you my contact details after the event. The man laughed. I'll keep that in mind, then Mr. Yorick. Sylvia chuckled. Glancing over at the party, Lyrica narrowed her eyes since it seemed like she'd have to reveal some of her strength in order to get a passing grade. Full. Breathing out softly, she tightened her grip around her sword. Heavenly Sword Arts, first step, clarity. Lyrica thought to herself as light glimmered from the blade of her sword. Asterisk Poochie. Suddenly, the arm of the boss was separated from the shoulder as blood poured out relentlessly. Asterisk whistle. Damn, her attack power has sword, huh? Can't wait to see it for myself in the later rounds. Wouldn't that be quite interesting? Shiro mused to herself. Indeed. I wonder if she has improved more than Lysandra. Both Keiko and Kiyomi have admitted that Lysandra was talented to the point where she could be called a genius. Nimue nodded her head. I'm not too sure about that, but regardless, it's good for the party. Speaking of which, I wonder how Aram is doing. Looking over at Aram's team, Shiro was instantly surprised at how much the boss was being pushed back. Their team had 3 vanguards, Aram, Chunyu, and one other who had their name hidden. With the 3 of them, they had forced the boss into a state of constant retreat. Should the boss try to attack them by surprise, Aram would teleport them all behind the boss and land more hits. Her spells have become more diverse as well. However, I know that she's got more to show later in the rounds. Damn, all this watching has made me itch for some action myself. Shiro chuckled since she couldn't wait to fight with them all and test out their power for herself. Look at you being a battle maniac. Nimue rolled her eyes. Oh, I think it's quite cute though, is it not? Shiro cares deeply for them, so she wants to train with them to understand them better and help them. Izul smiled. Izul, you're too pure, ah? There's a 100% chance that Shiro wanted to fight them for fun and maybe give them guidance if she can. If anything, she'll probably disguise her one-sided beatings as training to fuel her sadistic desires. Asterisk cough. Asterisk, that's quite harsh, Nimue. I feel wronged. As if, we both know that you're sadistic at heart. Nimue retorted as Shiro feigned ignorance. She was quite spot on as she wasn't exactly the best trainer. If anything, she can only help them improve through some improvisation and constant fighting practice. It's worked so far, so she was fine with it. As she continued to observe the participants, Shiro made sure to mark down those that had potential in her mind so that she could deal with them later. There were moments where Shiro saw that both her and the other Slayer observed the same fight, but with the Slayer hiding most of his features, she couldn't tell what she was thinking. Eventually, the fight ended with everyone on the party passing with rather impressive spots. Lyrica managed to get rank 9 on the team, while Sylvia achieved rank 5. That was after they've held back quite a bit of their power as well. Chunyu achieved 3rd place on his team, with Aram following behind at spot number 4. As for Ian, well, she managed to achieve 2nd with the person Chunyu was worried about being in 1st place. Lysandra was also on Yin's team, and she had managed to reach 3rd place without making herself obvious to Ian. As the weakest 10 of each team were eliminated, 47 participants remained with Shiro and the other Slayer in the mix. Everyone was sent towards the 4th floor as Shiro regrouped with Lysandra and waited for the 4th trial. Stage 4, Hunting Ground. In this stage, all of you will be sent into a forest. There are 5 types of beasts/monsters within the forest, and with each beast you slay, you'll gain a certain amount of points. This stage will run for 1 hour, and at the end of the hour, only the top 20 will remain in the event. As for how the points are distributed, the first stage beast will grant 1 point. Second stage beast will grant 5, third grade beast 10, fourth grade beast will reward 20, and the strongest fifth grade beast will reward an astounding 50. Be warned, there are only 3 fifth grade beasts that will appear at a random moment, and only the person who lands the final hit will be rewarded with the points. You can track how many points everyone has through the leaderboard displayed via hologram in the stage. Good luck. Each of the beasts had an image next to them. The first grade beast looked like a wolf, second is a bear, third is a giant serpent, and the fourth grade beast is a chimera of sorts. As for the fifth beast, it was hidden behind a silhouette, making it so that no one could tell what it was. Reading the description, Shiro raised her eyebrows. Chizu, let's reveal a bit more of our power this round. Since this round will eliminate more than half of us, it's best for us to go serious. Shiro whispered over. MN got it. But wouldn't the others get suspicious? Lysandra asked, since she had to be extra careful in the last round since she was in a team with Ian. Thankfully, she wasn't exactly the smartest, as she is more focused on food than on people. We'll have to be a bit more careful and fight away from them. Plus, I want them to go into the next round, so we don't want to be stealing their points. Shiro nodded. Waiting for the teleport circle to the next floor, Shiro glanced towards the other teams and noticed the other Slayer looking towards her party. Why does it seem like he's interested in the other girls? Could he be a guy that wants to be in a relationship with them? Shiro wondered to herself. Despite not being able to tell their gender, she couldn't help but become curious as to what they had planned. As the teleport circle appeared, everyone rushed towards it, since the faster they reached the next floor, the more of a head start they could get. Teleporting to the next floor, Shiro saw that they were in the center of a huge mountain range with large beasts in the distance roaming around. Take this, we'll communicate with each other and share the bounty. Shiro gave Lysandra an earpiece before jumping up the mountain for a good vantage point. Jumping in her rift that was disguised by her fey illusions, Shiro eventually arrived at the peak. My skill analysis isn't enough, since there are still a few things that are too far away. She furrowed her brows before taking out a ring that had the skill Hawkeye Plus embedded into it. Activating Hawkeye, she could now focus on long-distance targets with great clarity. Now then, as the name suggests, this shall become my hunting ground, she muttered with a grin. Drawing back on her bow, fire flared around her as she let go of the strings without charging up too much mana. Boom. Letting off a shockwave, the arrow flew through the air before piercing a third-grade serpent right through the skull and caused it to crash through several trees. Daughter of mine, 2 bears to your left, around 300 meters. Shiro called into the earpiece, since she could get a grasp on where everyone was. Got it, Mom. Lysandra replied with a chuckle, since she could tell that Shiro was having a bit of fun sniping beasts from the mountains. While Lysandra went to kill the bears, Shiro had an idea. Just for a fun nostalgia trip, I think I'll have to trouble the bears a little, she said with a smile. Wait, what do you mean by nostalgia trip? Nimue raised an eyebrow. Oh, you know, the first time I killed a bear in this life was through the ass. Shiro grinned as she targeted a bear far into the distance. Readying up her bow, she made sure that she wrapped it with her mana so that it will fly straight into the targeted area. Bang. Suddenly feeling danger loom over its body, the bear raised its head in caution, but at that point, it was already too late. Poochie. As the round continued, both Shiro and Lysandra killed beasts at an impressive pace. By the time it hit the 15-minute mark, Shiro had already accumulated an astounding 655 points, while Lysandra claimed 592 points, setting them both solidly within the top 5. As for the one in the first spot, they had a ridiculous 1,000 points, and it was the other Slayer that Shiro was cautious about. She had observed him a little, but every time she looked longer than needed, the Slayer would turn his head towards her position. While he could not see where she was exactly, he could tell he was being observed. With this, Shiro knew that his senses were quite high. In addition to this, his style of fighting reminded her a little about someone that she had met already, but she was confused as to why he would be here. Ignoring this, Shiro glanced over at the leaderboards. Looking at how many points the party got, she couldn't help but furrow her brows as they were teetering around the 15th place. There were times where they'll fall below 20 but claim the spot once more. Could it be because they have more people? It's less efficient to hunt as a group since you're not killing as many beasts as you could. Not only that, since Sylvie is a healer, She wouldn't have enough power to kill the larger beasts alone. Shiro thought to herself, perhaps you want to give them some assistance? Nimue asked. MN, this stage isn't exactly fair for someone like Sylvia, so I think I'll do just that. Shiro nodded. Pulling out a piece of paper, she brought out a pen before sketching a detailed layout of the entire area. Switching to a red pen, she then circled where the beasts are around them along with their grades. She then used a blue pen to mark down any nearby adventurers that might take their prey. Double-checking the map to make sure it's accurate, Shiro then tied it to a normal arrow she created with nanotech and knocked the arrow on the string. Pulling back the string, she fired towards their location. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Lyrica, this isn't going too well. While we can kill the beasts easily, the points that we're getting are quite low. Aram furrowed her brows. I know, I want us to split up but stay within a certain distance with one another so that we can help each other. After all, there's no rule stating that participants can't eliminate each other in this, so we don't want to split up if possible. There might be some people that ignore the points and go after participants instead. Lyrica replied. That's indeed a worry. There's also Sylvia's lack of offense should we split up. Aram nodded. As they continued to talk, an arrow thunked against the tree and embedded itself deeply. Instantly standing on guard, they got into a formation and readied their swords. Looking around cautiously, they saw that there were no more arrows but decided to stand on guard. Looking at the first arrow that was sunk into a tree, Lyrica noticed a rolled-up piece of paper attached to the body. Girls, protect me for a moment. There's a letter. Lyrica called out as they nodded. Unraveling the piece of paper, Lyrica widened her eyes when she saw a heavily detailed map of sorts. On the bottom, a few sentences were written. Seems like you lot are struggling a little. Since you're quite interesting, I'll give you a little help. You can also thank your healer for standing up to me when the other cowards backed away. She's got some backbone to her. Good luck. Kazumi. Raising her eyebrows at the letter, Lyrica passed it to Sylvia. That archer woman. Sylvia muttered and looked towards the leaderboards. Realizing that she and her partner were in 4th and 5th place with a solid lead, it now made a little sense as to why she could spare them some help. Rambiepsilon. As the party discussed the possibility of any hidden meanings, Lyrica was thinking about something else. That's definitely Shiro, isn't it? Indeed. As you have stated previously, there are some habits that are still present in her disguise, and the fact that she's helping you is probably her way of trying to give you lot an extra push without you realizing. Yuan Tian chuckled. But when did she become an archer? I know she has a few guns as proven way back in the fight against Blood Monarch, where Sylvia lost 2 of her friends, along with the fact that there's a large chance for her to be the rogue assassin. But she's mostly used swords or magic most of the time. Perhaps her accuracy with the gun translated into the bow. After all, the two are not so different. Oh well. We'll probably find out the truth after the event. Say, why do you think she's disguised herself though? Maybe she wants to fight against you girls without disclosing her identity. That way, she can find out what you're capable of without holding back. Should you know who she is, there is a subconscious limiter after all. True. Since she wants us to go serious, I'll have to endure the thought of hurting her then. Lyrica sighed. Why did you sigh just now, Lyrica? Sylvia asked curiously. Oh, nothing. I was just wondering if we should try to get an archer in our group. If we do, we can scout out an area much easier. Lyrica replied. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Looking at the party from afar, Shiro smiled when she saw their points start to increase at a faster pace after receiving her help. Just as she was about to turn her attention elsewhere, she felt danger behind her and rolled to the side. Sharp instincts. A voice muttered. Looking around, Shiro realized that they must be invisible. Say boy, do you think that invisibility can save your ass after you try to eliminate me? Shiro raised her eyebrows and gave him a taunting smile. Activating analysis, she could faintly make out a slight leakage of mana from his skill and saw where he was. Knocking an arrow on her bow, she jumped up into the air and fired towards his general direction. The arrow missed his body by a small margin, but that was part of her plan. Flexing her fingers slightly, the arrow stopped in mid-air before slowly turning around. Seeing that Shiro had missed her shot, the assassin smiled since this meant that she could only tell his general direction and not where he was exactly. But as he was planning out his next moves, the arrow struck against his back. Gah? You knew? He widened his eyes. Of course I knew, dumbass. Shiro chuckled before kicking him straight in the chin. The force of the kick flung his body up into the air as she was sure she heard a crack during that kick. Flying through the air for a moment, his body teleported away as he was eliminated. Yikes. That was a fierce kick. Say, I can't help but notice you like to use kicks a lot when you fight. Why's that? Nimue asked. Well, kicks are easy to generate force with, while hands can redirect force easier than legs. For me, hands are for defense while kicks are for offense. Shiro replied with a shrug. If that's the case, maybe you should learn a martial art that has something to do with the legs. Nimue suggested. Maybe, but it's not too high up on my to-do list. I've already got a bunch of martial arts I want to master first. Plus, there are also skills I haven't explored fully, so I shouldn't bite off more than I can chew. Shiro shrugged before firing an arrow at a distant beast. As the round continued, Shiro and Lysandra continued to claim points while occasionally giving the party an updated map to help them some more. For the instances where the 5th grade beast would appear, Shiro would charge up a rather powerful shot before stealing it from the people that were trying to kill it. Of course, this made them want to attack her, but she would eliminate them before they were able to. In the end, both she and Lysandra placed 2nd and 3rd, while the party claimed 12th, 11th, 10th, 9th, and 8th with her help. With all of them managing to pass, Shiro smiled in satisfaction before looking towards the 2 people that she was most cautious about. First, the Slayer. The second was a participant that showed quite an impressive amount of strength in the round. While she managed to steal the kill on one of the stage 5 beasts, he was able to kill the other one before she could even shoot an arrow. With a single swing of his sword, he cut the beast in half and walked away as if it was nothing. Not only that, but she could also sense an element similar to Yin's shadow in a way that ate away at the beast, thus leaving corrosion wounds on the cut. Browsing through her memories, she couldn't find anyone that fit the bill except for a guy she met back in New York. However, even with that, she had never seen him fight, so he was off the list. As for the other Slayer, well, he took the 3rd beast, and she immediately recognized the fighting style. Only question was why that pervert was even here with that kind of outfit that made him seem like the edgelord of Kairosa. Well, I don't exactly know what happened after the little parting gift we left in Kairosa, but it seems like he's found his way here. I just hope that he won't stay for long, or else I'll have to deal with him again. Shiro thought with a shiver since he didn't want to deal with the pervert. With a pervert in the vicinity and a potential one nearby, Shiro couldn't help but sigh. This event really has drawn out all kinds of crazies. She muttered. What do you mean, Mom? Lysandra raised her eyebrows. Oh, nothing, dear, just some old people that I know about. Anyways, let's see what the next round is about. Shiro shook her head. Stage 5, duel. Simple. It's a 1 versus 1 and the winner moves on to the next round. Names will be drawn at random. Huh. I thought that they would have saved this for the last round. To think they'll use it now. Shiro muttered. What do you think the last round will be then? Lysandra asked curiously. No idea, but it might be a team versus team to determine the people who get the items. Shiro shrugged. Looking at the name draws, she found out that she was against Aram of all people. Well, ain't that just a shame? Do I want to proceed on to the next round and eliminate Aram, or do I want to let her pass? Shiro mused to herself. Why are you even thinking about this? We both know that you're going to eliminate her regardless. Nimue chuckled. Very true. Shiro nodded. As for Lysandra, she was against one of the other contestants, so Shiro wasn't too worried about her being eliminated unless the opponent pulls something. Asterisk rumble. Suddenly, the tower shook as the walls started to slide down. Revealing 10 platforms that extended out and above the city of Varisha, Shiro was surprised at how high up they were. With the sudden opening of the walls, they resisted a huge suction that threatened to throw them out while the air started to get thin. Seems like this fight is going to be one that challenges how much one can control their body. With the air being so thin, unless you're good at using your stamina efficiently, you're going to have some trouble. I suppose it's also what separates the good from the best. Shiro thought to herself. Seeing a teleport circle opened up under her, Shiro found herself transported to one of the stages. Seeing Aram in front of her, she then saw a countdown timer appear in front of them. Oh, how sad. Despite your help in the last round, it seems like we'll have to fight against one another. Aram smiled. I suppose so. Just because I helped. Feel free to go all out, okay? Shiro replied with a chuckle. Of course, that's what I plan to do. Aram nodded before checking out Shiro's true nature. Seeing her nature, Aram widened her eyes before being confused. Looking at Kazumi, she narrowed her eyes. You're Shiro, aren't you? She asked with a frown. Well, I suppose this is you looking at my true nature then. Shiro smiled as she narrowed her eyes. Yes, though I wonder why you didn't just show up before us. Aram shrugged. I kind of wanted to see how much you lot have grown. Though despite you knowing who I am, feel free to go all out. Don't worry, I've got a skill that can save my life if needs be. Shiro smiled. Of course, I have to say though, I'm a bit surprised that you've become an archer in the time that you were gone. Oh, don't worry about it. It's just a disguise. If anything, I'm a fake archer. Shiro chuckled. Fair enough. Aram smiled. As the timer hit 0, she stomped down as 3 tier 4 magic circles appeared around Shiro. Snapping her fingers, the gravity around Shiro was instantly increased as she slammed her knees against the ground. Gravity, huh? When did you learn this type of magic? Shiro asked a little forcefully since she was resisting against the magic. Let's just say I delved deeper into spatial magic. Aram replied. I see. That probably explains the teleportation in round 1. Punching the ground, a pulse of mana exploded out as it was enhanced with Shiro's celestial path. Asterisk ping. Shattering the surrounding magic circles into tiny shards, Shiro made some distance between the two of them. However, her body slammed into an invisible wall. Lockdown, Aram commanded. Flipping her hand, the invisible box that carried Shiro was flung upwards. While Shiro was being flung, Aram clasped her 2 hands together and started to merge several different Tier 4 spells. This was based on the concept that she had found in the Muriel Royal Library and had tried out in the war but failed. With the 2 months that Shiro had been away, she spent the time refining the theory as well as studying space magic. Gritting her teeth, a spell circle with multiple different spells could be seen enhancing the main one. While it's similar to what normal mages do at higher levels, this was in fact one that was made up of several conflicting spells which should have made it impossible. But by removing the conflicting parts and only having the compatible parts merge, she was able to craft a spell out of all of them. Sometimes, the result wouldn't be as effective as using the base spells, but this was one of the times where the outcome was much better than the spells used. Tier 4 fusion spell Zerst. Aram commanded. Ripples in space appeared around Shiro as high-density orbs of energy started to form. Absorbing the ambient mana rapidly, she found it a little hard to cast a spell since it would just be cancelled by the lack of mana. Interesting, Shiro thought to herself while analyzing the core component of the spell with her analysis skill. Realizing what she had done to them, she couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. Since you've presented a rather impressive skill, let me show you one of mine as a gift. Hell, if you don't mind, I'll put some of your theories to use. Shiro smiled. Of course, by all means, be my guest. The fruits of my research are ones that I hope can be in use for the party. If you can make use of it, I would be more than happy regardless of the outcome. Aram smiled. Receiving Aram permission, Shiro closed one of her eyes and started to create the new spell with Aram's fusion technique as a base. Fusing her star, Void Star, and Cosmic Ice together with the additional help of her Chimera arts, Shiro then activated her Throne World skill. Slamming her hand down, her surrounding spells were shattered as she pulled Aram into her own personal domain. Shielding her eyes from the light, Aram looked around in shock. The ground beneath her was created from ice as the galaxy reflected off its surface. Far into the distance were tall glacial mountains that had a singular large star in the center which were reminiscent of eyes. Above her, a valley of stars and colors were present, each one glistening softly. Welcome to my throne world. Using a few skills together with your technique allowed me to create this world which houses 3 of my attunements. Each one is of the star type, so my bow is enhanced in this domain. I'm sure you've seen what my bow could do in Tokyo, so you can imagine what I can do in here. Shiro smiled. To think that even as an archer you're still the ridiculous adventurer I've seen ever. Honestly, I didn't even humor the fact that the huge spell in Tokyo could have been your doing, but with you confirming the truth, it seems like I have no choice to believe it. Aram chuckled. I forfeit. I already know that my barriers can't hold up to your bombardments since I'm offense-based. She raised her hands up in defeat. Teleporting out of the arena, Shiro disabled her throne world. Dispelling her throne world, Shiro looked around at the other arenas and saw that most of them were finishing up. Lysandra had already defeated her opponent, while Lyrica and Sylvia were having a friendly spar as they were pitted against one another. While they could fight somewhat seriously, Sylvia had already decided to let Lyrica pass since Lyrica would probably have a better chance of winning the next round for some orange grade gear. Once the last fight finished, the final 10 were confirmed. Out of the party, Lyrica, Een, and Chunyu managed to pass along with Shiro and Lysandra. Teleporting everyone onto the top floor, a hologram appeared on the screen. Stage 6, the final stage. There are 5 orange-grade equipment up for grabs in this event. The 10 remaining contestants will form teams and select a captain. You will then be placed into a field with 2 castles. The main goal is for you to take the other castle's flag while defending your own. As for who gets the items, it will be dependent on your performance rather than which side wins. Of course, if you win the fight, you'll get some extra points in the final tally. You have 5 minutes to decide on your teams. Good luck. Reading the stage description, Shiro realized that they had just enough people on their side to form a team of 5. However, before she could call out of the party, she was approached by one of the other participants that had managed to pass. How about you join our team? If we split up those that are powerful, you'll get more chances to show off your strength through combat now. The person suggested as Shiro raised an eyebrow. But if we finish the match quickly, would we not also get points? She grinned. If they finished off the fight quickly, the other team would not have many chances to demonstrate their prowess, making it so that they wouldn't need as many points. True, though I believe that the more points you have, the better chance for you to get one of the better orange-grade equipment. I doubt the organizers would allow you to finish the match that easily. The man smiled as Shiro thought about it for a bit. I'm fine. I've already got some people in mind. But don't worry about it. I won't be taking the other Slayer. She chuckled and made her way to Lyrica's group with Lysandra following behind her. Yo, since it's the final round, why don't we team up? We got 5 people exactly, and we might be able to get some more performance points if the teams are more balanced. Shiro called out with a smile. Of course. However, are you sure you don't want to go on their side, Kazumi? I thought your main goal was to observe how much we've improved. Lyrica chuckled as Shiro raised her eyebrows before staying silent and put a finger on her lips. Well, let's just say that I've seen quite a bit, and since I'm a rather sore loser, I wouldn't want me nor the people I'm interested in to lose. Shiro replied with a grin. Since it's been around 2 months, do you want to take command of the castle while I'll be one of the chess pieces for this event, I suppose? She asked Lyrica. Rambados. No, it's fine. With your skill set and proficiencies, you're more suited towards commanding and leading. Having someone who can scout out the entire area ordering people is better in this situation. Lyrica shook her head with a smile. Got it. In that case, then as usual, here are some earpieces for me to send you some instructions. As we're gunning for points, we'll try for one-on-one combat with my support mixed into the fight. The ones that you need to be careful of are the other Slayer and the second mysterious guy who I think I have a pretty good idea on who it is. For those 2, it's best that Lyrica and Chunyu fight them since you 2 are focused on speed. Shiro said with a smile. While there were earpieces provided by the organizers, Shiro would much rather use her own. Nodding their head, the 3 couldn't help but feel a little nostalgic since 2 months was a long time, especially if you're spending most of that in a dungeon. With Shiro back on the team, they found things to be more natural and fitting. It wasn't to say that Lyrica was a bad leader. It was just very hard to defeat Shiro in terms of versatility and ability to recover a situation regardless of how dire it seemed. Since I haven't seen everything yet, feel free to reveal around 80% of your power as this is broadcasted to the city. I'll find good fights for you to display most of your abilities depending on the situation, so make sure you keep an ear out for my orders, okay? Seeing the 4 of them nod, Shiro smiled. In that case, then let's bag ourselves some orange-grade equipment. Walking towards the teleport circle, they were sent to the topmost floor as a giant forest with a few clearings laid out before them. Nodding their heads, everyone scattered out into the forest while Shiro readied her bow at the flag. Activating the skill, Hawkeye, along with analysis, Shiro scanned the forest for any enemies. Everyone, Start making some distance between yourselves. However, make sure you're not too far apart, as we don't know where they are. There is a good chance that they're still bunched up, so you want to be careful. Shiro called out over the mic. Got it. Watching the party spread out across the forest, Shiro narrowed her eyes at distant castle and tried to see who their defender was. Seeing that the defender was the same person who had talked to her earlier, Shiro decided to try to hit them from this far away. After all, they weren't the Slayer nor the other guy, so she wasn't too worried. I got sights on their defender. I'll try to eliminate him now. Shiro muttered into the mic while pulling back on her bowstring. It was also a good chance for her to give Asteria's blessing skill a go. Piercing the galaxies, may Asteria's fury reach my foe. Shiro chanted the first thing that came into her mind. Shimmering with a soft light, the bow started to draw in ambient mana. Coagulating into an arrow, Shiro created several layers of tier 4 magic circles to act as a barrel of sorts for the arrow. Asterisk bang. Letting go of the string, the arrow was shot through the magic circles, with each one increasing its speed exponentially. Not only that, but due to the bow's passive, a second version of the attack trailed behind the arrow while illusionary stars wrapped them as it soon flickered out of sight. Looking towards the other castle, she saw both arrows slam into the adventurer's body. Widening his eyes in disbelief, the adventurer felt a huge burst of force from the arrows as his body was slammed into the ground and a crater was formed near the castle. Enemy defender is eliminated. Their flag is open for you to get. Shiro smiled. Holy, when the hell did you become such a powerful archer? Lyrica's confused voice rang out over the mic. Haha, let's just say that I was entertaining myself a little during the 2 months that I'm not allowed to level up. Shiro replied. Kazumi, are you sure you're still a mage? I don't think a mage is as diverse as you. Shinyu chuckled. Don't mind me, just know that after this, I'll be asking Sylvie about what you've been up to during these 2 months. If you mistreat her in any way, trust that I'll pay you back 100 times, okay? Even your branch master can't save your ass if you catch my ire. Shiro grinned as Chinyu gulped. Thankfully, he had treated Sylvia as a princess, no a queen during these 2 months, so it should be fine. Surely Sylvia wouldn't report wrongly and watch him suffer, right? Oh, don't worry about that. The two of them have been a little too sweet during these 2 months, and we've pretty much been force-fed all of their love and affection. To be honest, I'm surprised that Een could even eat like that after being force-fed. Lyrica laughed. Emin, I heard my name and food. Are you offering me food? When and where? Yin's curious voice rang out. Rolling her eyes with a smile, Shiro admitted that she missed this little glutton of hers in the last 2 months. After the event, Een, depending on your performance, I'll reward you with some food. Oh, but you're not allowed to blow up the forest. I can see you preparing that massive spark of dark star, you know. Shiro chuckled. Hey, fine. I'll control it a bit more then. But you have to promise me a banquet. Een complained. Sure. Oh, would you look at that? Perfect timing. Een, a hostel is around 700 meters away from you. Kick their ass. Yura, for the banquet. Een shouted out as she dashed towards them with a hungry glimmer in her eyes. The F***CK? What kind of war cry is that? Jumping into the air, a pair of black wings spread out from her back as Een grinned. Snapping her fingers, 5 dark star sparks flickered into existence around her as she sent them forward towards the enemy. Asterisk bang 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 bang. Exploding into mass of fire and destruction, the entire tower shook slightly from the impact. But before she could even celebrate, a sword appeared in front of her as she quickly jumped into the rift to dodge the sword. When she exited, she had a frown on her face while a small cut could be seen on her cheeks. You dodged, the man said as shadows seemed to flicker on his sword for a short moment before dispersing. Taking a deep breath, Een looked back at the man with a glare. Have you ever thought about how rude it is to attack a girl's face? She frowned. This is a competition. If you're bothered by the thought of hurting your face, you should have brought a helmet. The man replied. Ah, I see. So you're that kind of asshole. In that case, I'll erase you right here and now to save some other people the trouble. Een narrowed her eyes as she flapped her wings. All of a sudden, pillars of dark star shot out of the ground and surrounded the man. Transforming herself into her phoenix form, Een flapped her wings once more as a huge tier 4 magic circle expanded out all of a sudden. Narrowing his eyes, The man was about to attack In once more when an arrow appeared in front of his face. Feeling the danger emanate from the arrow, he quickly raised his sword to block it. Meanwhile, Shiro frowned when she saw him block her arrow. TCH, annoying bastard. How dare the F*** hurt Yin's face. Shiro muttered in a low voice while a second arrow was currently being prepared. Tins of arrays were condensing onto the body of the arrow as magic circles enhanced the arrow itself. Pulling back on her bow, Shiro fired the explosive arrow towards the man. Darling, tell me when your spell's ready to be fired. I'll give you some extra support to kick the guy's ass. She called out over the mic. Crying out in acknowledgement, shot into the air above her tier 4 magic circle. Gathering mana between her wings, her dark star element started to increase in size as the mana around her became rampant. As if it was a berserker set free from its chains, her fire raged relentlessly and tried to burn the man into ashes. Surrounding himself in shadow, he fended off the fire while readying his sword. Swiping it clockwise, a ray of energy circled around him and cut the fire in half. Unfortunately for him, this did little to ease his discomfort. TCH, clicking his tongue, he jumped down onto the ground and started to avoid the fire. Dashing around, he tried to look for an opportunity to attack but an explosive arrow would always cut his attempt short. If it was a normal arrow, he would ignore it and continue as if nothing had happened. However, he knew that should he be hit by the arrow, he would immediately be eliminated. While he had amazing offensive power, it was useless if he couldn't get close enough. And for some ungodly reason, the archer on their side of the team seemed to know when he'll go for an attack, since the arrow would always be so precise. Feeling helpless about the fact that he had to watch as the spell was being completed, he gritted his teeth and called out to his teammates over the mic. I might need some assistance to deal with this spell. A little hard considering the fact that I'm dealing with someone myself, one of his teammates replied with a strained voice. I can come help if that's what you need. You'll have to give me 2 minutes to deal with this assassin and swordswoman combo though. Recognizing the voice, the man nodded his head. All right, but you don't have to eliminate them just yet. If anything, this bird is going to be the most annoying, so we should deal with her huge area of effects before focusing on the others. We'll see what happens. Furrowing his brows, the man shook his head while glancing towards Shiro's location. Narrowing his eyes, he ignored her for now and dashed towards Even if she fires an explosive arrow, he had an idea on how to deal with them. Just as he decided to attack once again, the arrow arrived on time and exploded near his feet. Quickly shifting his body before using his sword as a launch pad, he reinforced the blade with mana and used it as a shield to propel his body upwards towards Frowning slightly, Shiro was rather surprised at his maneuver. Watch out, he's coming at you now and it might be a bit late for me to give you support with the arrow as it'll hit you in the process. Lysandra and Chun, you are also having some trouble since the Slayer became more aggressive. She called out while firing an arrow towards the Slayer's location. Hearing her warning, only nodded since she could already see the man dashing towards her. However, this was just perfect. The closer he comes, the harder it would be for him to dodge her attack. Boom. Ripping open a portal of sorts, a giant meteor could be seen descending onto the forest. With just its appearance, the surrounding trees started to burn up into ash as the man widened his eyes. If he wanted to survive this, he'd have to use one of his items, and even then, there's no guarantee that he'll win with the archer out and around. TCH, this event's really drawn out all kinds of monsters, huh? He muttered with a sigh. However, this didn't mean that he was going to give up. Taking a deep breath, he tightened his grip on his sword as his cloak started to burn, revealing his identity to be Lucius, the young master of the Shadow Temple. Shadow Step Sword Art, Painless Death. He muttered and swung his sword upwards. Shing. The high-pitched sound of a sword being drawn could be heard as a deep cut could be seen on the meteor, but failed to cut it in half. Not enough, huh? He sighed. Even if you cut the meteor in half, that is but food for the real spell, you know? Chuckled as she had turned herself back into human form. What do you mean? Lucian asked with a smile. For you see, darling, if you start monologuing about how your element works, I'll personally go over there and kick your ass after I kick his ass. Shiro's voice rang out over her earpiece. But mum, I dash. No buts. Either eliminate him now, or I'll do it. URG, fine. Well, no, you didn't hear her, but it seems like, oh dear mother of mine wants me to hurry. So bye? Snapping her fingers, a spark of demolition star appeared in the center of the meteor, consuming all the mass around it. The spark started to grow, but Een compressed it down. Within a single second, the entire meteor had disappeared, as all that remained was a ball of white. Before Lucian could even question what it was, the feeling of death swept over him as he knew that this might kill him before the barriers actually activated. Quickly using one of his life-saving items, he watched as the spark exploded out into a giant ball of fire, rivaling that of a giant bomb dropped into the center of the forest. A deep crater could be seen as everything within a 1.5 kilometers radius was charred to ashes. The explosion had even accidentally eliminated Lysandra along with her opponent as they were a tad too close to the explosion. Looking at the destruction, Een nodded in satisfaction before glancing over at the leaderboard. Seeing that she had just eliminated Lysandra but failed to eliminate her opponent, Een gulped in worry. OSH*T, she thought to herself since she didn't expect to drag Lysandra along with the spell. Een, how did you manage to end one of the fights far away from you, but not your own? Shiro's tired voice rang out. They were off guard and my opponent was on guard. Een tried to persuade Shiro. *Sigh. At least your sister wasn't harmed too much. Go help Lyrica and Shinyu. I'll deal with your opponent quickly. Okay, Mum. Een nodded obediently since she was just happy that she didn't get a serious scolding. After sending Een towards the duo, Lyrica and Shinyu, Shiro looked towards Lucius' location. Currently, there were 3 enemies left with the third going back to their castle so that it wasn't unguarded. This meant that only the Slayer and Lucius were available for combat right now. Should she eliminate Lucius, that would mean they can put the Slayer in a 1v4 situation and victory is well within their reach. Pulling back on her bow, a stream of void star energy coagulated into an arrow. Fusing her boreal wind with it so that the travel speed is increased, Shiro narrowed her eyes at Lucius, who was currently dusting himself off after barely surviving with his life-saving treasure. Sighing to himself, he looked around at the destruction and couldn't help but shake his head. God damn, why are the people that have some slight connection to Shiro this insane in terms of fighting prowess? He muttered. One of the other reasons he had come to this event was to look for Shiro and inquire about the existence of Een. With the current state of the Shadow Temple, he was forced to try to look back into some records and had discovered the origin that included a distant kingdom called the Een Kingdom that was destroyed in a war against the world. In this record, there were talks of phoenixes with the dark star element along with the original form of martial arts that was passed down to the faction. With so many of these similarities in Shiro's party, he really wanted to ask her about the potential connection she had. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to find her during this, so he could only wait till after the event. Just as he finished dusting himself off, he felt danger overwhelm his senses as an arrow slammed into his back before he could even react. Oh, come on, he shouted out in annoyance. Watching Lucius be forcefully teleported out of the arena, Shiro turned her attention back to the other Slayer. With Een in the mix, he was having some trouble, but not enough to the point that he would use his best skills. They can hold him back for now. In the meantime, I should make it so that the enemy can't take our flag during the time we're fighting against the Slayer. She thought to herself and shot 2 powerful arrows towards the new defender of the enemy's flag. Dodging the first arrow, the man was put in an awkward position as the second arrow struck his body. For Shiro, it was quite an easy task to predict where they'd go after firing an arrow. Adventurers of their caliber would always go for the shortest dodging route, so she just needed to send an arrow to where they would be after dodging. Eliminating the final adventurer except for the Slayer, their team would win if they take their flag. However, it was a good chance for her party members to practice fighting someone strong, so it would be a waste to avoid this opportunity. Jumping off the castle tower, Shiro dashed towards their location. Meanwhile, Lyrica and Chunyu were facing some difficulties trying to land a hit on this Slayer. Whenever he attacked them, he would instantly return to a defensive position and parry their next attack. Not only that, but there were also little chances to attack him to begin with since his counter was fearsome. A single attack would have a big chance of eliminating them. But for some reason, it was as if he was going easy on them. Whether that was because he's looking down on them or other reasons, Lyrica did not enjoy that thought too much. Full. Breathing out softly, she tightened her grip on her handle and dashed towards him using a set of footwork from the heavenly sword arts called the Cloud Strider. Lyrica closed the gap between the two of them. Quickly entering a defensive stance, the Slayer swung his sword towards her but was parried before it could even gather enough momentum. First step, clarity, Lyrica said with a frown as she flicked her wrist and broke the Slayer's guard. Asterisk ping. Suddenly, sparks appeared near his neck as he was barely able to block the strike in time so that he wasn't eliminated. TCH, second step, emptiness. Lyrica clicked her tongue. Asterisk bang bang. Quickly jumping into the air, the Slayer narrowly dodged 2 strikes from his blind spot due to his instincts. Damn, those sword strikes might be faster than mine, he thought with a frown. Little did he know, this was her power with a normal sword. If she included her hidden proficiency in the mix, the combination of short-range and long-range attacks would have eliminated him if he didn't go serious just now. Hey! Shaking his head, he decided that this was enough playtime. From what he could see, he was the only one left. Sword domain, he muttered. A pulse of semi-transparent energy spread out as it encased everyone around him. Widening her eyes, Lyrica tried to get out of the range, but the Slayer wasn't about to let her get away. Flickering in front of her, he was about to eliminate her when a bow appeared within his peripherals. Using her bow as a baton, Shiro slammed it into the Slayer's body and transferred all of her momentum to him with the help of her phantom path. Asterisk bang. Sliding backwards, the Slayer was quite thankful that the hit didn't eliminate him instantly. Narrowing his eyes at the newcomer, he furrowed his brows. Logically, he should have felt her enter his domain, but the moment she appeared, he had felt nothing. Yo, seems like you've had quite a fun time with my teammates. Shiro grinned while helping Lyrica up. Staying silent, the Slayer decided to reveal a few more trump cards with Shiro in the mix. Silent type, huh? You weren't quite like this in Kairosa, but I suppose time changes a man. Hearing that the woman knew that he was from Kairosa, the Slayer couldn't help but pause for a slight moment. However, this was all Shiro needed since every party member leapt into action. Flickering behind him, she roundhouse kicked him towards Lyrica and Shunyu. Third step, void. Lyrica muttered before swinging her sword once more. This time, 3 attacks were sent towards the Slayer in an instant. In the gaps between each attack, Ian had created dark star blades so that he couldn't escape. Taking a deep breath, the Slayer twisted his body. Crescent moon blade, howling moon. Asterisk ping. Shattering the attacks around him in an instant, he flickered beside Shunyu. Lunar eclipse. Asterisk bang. In an instant, cut marks appeared on Chunyu's barrier as his body was somehow restrained from reacting. Careful, he can restrain you, Chunyu warned as his body was teleported away. Firing 2 arrows, Shiro tried to pin his location down, but he had already flickered next to Ian. Shattered moon. Activating the next stage of his martial arts, he tried to restrain Ian using the same method as before, but widened his eyes when Ian grinned. Gluttony. Eating away at the mana around her, she forcefully broke the restraint. You're a little bland, but food is food. Ian grinned while quickly dodging his attack. Goodness, when did your skill evolve from storing extra mana to eating attacks? Shiro questioned since Yin's gluttony should only allow her to increase the amount of mana she could hold. Well, I kept on using gluttony to eat at restaurants in the 2 months, as well as the time I had in the dungeons, so I eventually got a new title and the skill evolved. Ian replied. The title that she had obtained was Sin of Gluttony, and that allowed her to expend some of her additional mana reserves to consume an attack from the enemy. As long as she had reserves, she could consume any attack. However, once she uses up all the reserves, she'll be forced to take the full brunt, so she needed to be careful of when she used his. Well, since that's the case, stick close to Lyrica and free her if needs be. I can handle the restraint myself. Shiro grinned while twisting her body to avoid the attacks that he had sent. Realizing his restraint couldn't affect 2 of them, one eating it and the other just shrugging it off, the Slayer knew that this was going to be an annoying fight. Bang, bang, bang. As he continued to fend off the onslaught of attacks sent out by the party, the Slayer, or rather, Isaac, had sweat pouring from his face as he struggled to even land an attack. Of course, it wasn't as if the party was going all out since he needed to worry about collateral damage while Shiro was meant to be an archer right now. If we delay any longer, he'll get more points and we may not be able to get one of the orange grade items. Shiro warned while vaulting off of a tree branch and fired an arrow that was blocked. I'll use my throne world and you girls will synergize with me, okay? Shiro called out as they nodded. Hearing what she had just said, Isaac frowned since the words throne world weren't exactly the most pleasing thing to hear. Slamming her hand down, Shiro dragged everyone in the place to her Rift Shadow throne world. In this world, unless she gave you permission, your vision would be hindered slightly. Pulling back on her bow, Shiro did a quick chant as she fired the arrow up into the sky. Splitting into tens of shards, the arrows rained down upon Isaac. A second volley of arrows soon followed while Lyrica and Shinyu dashed behind him in order to land a sneak attack. However, since Isaac still had his sword domain activated, he was able to detect them and quickly block the sneak attack. But in doing so, left his front wide open as Ian appeared in his view. Twisting her body, she tried to slam a fist full of dark star energy into his chest. Unfortunately for Ian, Isaac shifted all of his weight onto his right leg before kicking her away with his left. Just as he did this, Shiro flickered into his blind spot with her bow held as if it was a sword. Pivoting on her foot, she activated her own sword domain on top of refraction as illusionary images of the sword appeared around him. Asterisk bang. Cracking the body of the bow against his torso, Shiro launched Isaac into the air as she flicked her bow back into a normal, holding position and pulled back on the strings. Condensing mana into an arrow, she fired it without hesitation. The longer she waited, the more chances for Isaac to reorientate himself and deflect the arrow. Asterisk boom. Exploding into a cloud of fire and dust, Shiro narrowed her eyes and glanced towards the holographic screen in the middle of the arena. Seeing that they had eliminated Isaac successfully, Shiro sighed in relief. Asterisk brrrr. The sound of a horn could be heard as the party was teleported to the uppermost floor. Decorated with white marble and red banners, 5 glass containers could be seen in the center of the floor. New yo. Shiro guessed that the orange grade items must be inside the glass containers since there was a sword, an axe, an armor piece, a bracelet of sorts, and a gem. Unfortunately, she was not able to inspect their properties, nor were there any signs to describe them. Above the containers was a holographic message. Congratulations. Points shall now be calculated as those with the most amount of points may choose an item. The order of which you will choose your item is in relation to your final ranking. After reading the message, Shiro looked around and saw that everyone in the final round had been teleported to this floor. Lysandra had a less than pleased face while looking at Ian since she was eliminated as collateral damage. Hell, she wasn't even able to show off some of her martial arts skills, meaning her points were quite low. Asterisk cough. Sorry big sis, didn't mean it, Can you forgive me? Ian apologized while standing next to Lysandra. Sighing softly, Lysandra shook her head. You better give me a portion of your food as an apology. She replied. Okay, but I can only split it 9:1, okay? You get 1, and I get 9. Ian responded while looking down on her fingers and tried to work out how much food she needed to give Lysandra in the end. Asterisk Poochie. Shouldn't it be me who gets the 9? Lysandra asked with a forced smile. Well, you don't have the skill, gluttony, do you? But if you're worried about the amount, I can guarantee that you'll get your fill since by 1 part 1 mean 1 banquet. Ian smiled brightly. Asterisk PFFFFTTT. F asterisk CK. You're going to have 9 banquets. Shiro shouted out from the back as she didn't expect Ian to want that many. What? I have around that many every day. Ian tilted her head in confusion. Huh? Looking over at Lyrica, Shiro saw her tired face and realized that it was indeed the truth. Holy hell, how does she, She must have used all of her earnings for this, right? Shiro asked slowly. Yeah, since we were doing high-level dungeons, she would have gotten quite a bit of income even after sharing. But she's poor right now since 100% of her income goes to food. In doesn't need clothes nor equipment since she has the monster cloth outfit, as well as the fact that she's a mage. Lyrica nodded with a sigh. Staying silent, Shiro couldn't help but look at Yin's stomach and wonder if it was a black hole. Ironically enough, her element was dark star, which can be shifted to have some properties of a black hole. I have no words for you, Yin. She massaged her eyes. What? It's not like I have any other use for the money. Yin pouted. Talking for a little longer, the points were finally tallied up as the top 5 finishers were as follows. First place was Isaac, second was Yin, third was Shiro, fourth was Lyrica, and fifth was Lucius. With Isaac being in first place, he walked up to the 5 glass containers that housed the weapons and wondered to himself for a moment. Eventually settling on the sword, he tapped the glass and retrieved the weapon. Next was Yin, and she decided to choose the bracelet, while Shiro, who was third, chose the gem. After all, armor and weapons were obsolete after a few levels, while the gem might be something that can help them for longer. Looking at the gem, Shiro realized that it was a mythic skill stone. She knew that there were lucky skill stones, cursed skill stones, blessed skill stones, and normal skill stones. She had never heard of anything such as a mythic skill stone. Mythic skill stone, orange. A skill stone blessed by the world. When activated, the user will have 1 minute to imagine a skill that they desire. Be warned, the mental image of the skill must be as detailed as possible for the best result, as a vague thought will randomize the outcome. Once the skill is constructed, the user can either choose to learn it themselves or gift it to another person. Raising her eyebrow at this skill, Shiro couldn't help but take a deep breath. Right now, the thing she needed the most was something that could help her kill a god or something that could possibly be immortal. Sure, she had the god-slaying sword, but that was trapped, so she should avoid interacting with the sword. However, there was now the problem of how the immortal gods are killed. She doesn't know what's the source of their immortality, so the thought would be vague, thus wasting this skill stone. Shaking her head, she decided to store it away for now, so that when she understood how she could kill a god, she can use it to make herself a skill. She could use it to give one of her teammates a skill similar to Snowmancer, as she understands the ins and outs of this class, but she was going to be selfish this time and use it for herself. After all, it's not often that you can get something that could potentially help you kill a god. That being said, I wonder if an orange grade item can even help me with such a thing. You would think that it would need to reach the black grade, or hell, maybe even rainbow grade. Well, perhaps it's an exception, though I wonder why the city lord would even put this item on to be won at the event. Do you think there's another plot behind this? Nimue asked. Oh, definitely. Only an idiot would give this away, Shiro replied. In the end, Lyrica took the armor while Lucius took the axe. After they chose their orange grade items, a celebratory banquet was going to be held in a few hours as they were teleported out of the tower for the time being. Stretching her body lightly, she told Lyrica that she'll go get changed back into her normal form with Lysandra. Leaving the party for now, Shiro and Lysandra jumped into the rift before exiting not too far away from the event. Untying her hair and letting it flow down, Shiro walked back towards the party. Wait, is that? Holy sh*t. She's back, one of the spectators shouted out, since he was part of the Winter's Grace. He still remembered the scene where Shiro had defeated their faction members with ease. Quickly backing away, he knew that getting her ire was dangerous. Raising her eyebrows, Shiro wondered why they had such an extreme reaction towards their existence, but only shrugged it off. Shiro, Lyrica called out with a smile, as everyone had regrouped. Yo, I was going to say let's go to a banquet, but since the event is going to be hosting one in a few hours, I might as well save some money. Plus, with Ian eating 10 of them daily, I don't think my wallet can hold up to it. Shiro chuckled. Wait, how did you know? Sylvia tilted her head with confusion. Maybe this quote should help you figure things out a little. Anyone else like this F***ck would overhear? Shiro grinned. That was you. Sylvia widened her eyes as she finally realized that the archer was Shiro. Yup, good job standing up to me, by the way. Really showed some backbone compared to the other participants, huh? Shiro laughed. God, if I knew that was you, I would have not bothered. Do you know how much my heart was pounding? Sylvia sighed. Well, at least it allowed me to see how much you've improved. Shiro smiled and patted Sylvia's shoulder. We'll talk later, but for now, I need to go meet my cousin and introduce her to you girls. Wait, your cousin is here? Lyrica asked curiously. Yup, you may know. Actually, you know what? I'll keep her identity a secret for now. When you see her, you'll probably know who she is. Shiro chuckled. Seeing her expression, the party immediately knew that her cousin must be a big shot since Shiro wouldn't hide her identity if not to see their shocked reactions. Well, I'll get going for now. Lysandra can tell you what's been happening in the 2 months we were gone. See ya. Shiro waved before jumping into the rift. She wanted to see if she could ask the city lord on why the mythic skill stone was given away. Seeing Shiro flicker away, Lyrica shook her head with a smile. She's still the same as usual, coming and going at a moment's notice. I suppose she's what you would call a free spirit now? Madison shrugged. True. Anyways, do you girls want to go to a cafe for now and wait for Shiro to come back? Lyrica suggested. Sure. I also want to hear what Shiro's been experiencing in the past 2 months after all. Sylvia nodded. ####. Parkouring through the city, Shiro watched as the tower descended back down into the ground. I wonder what else they use that tower for. It would be a little wasteful for them to use it just for the event now. Do you think it can be converted to a giant cannon? Haha. Nimue laughed. Possibly. I mean, with some detailed planning dash. I was being sarcastic. Nimue rolled her eyes. In that case, then just know that the possibility is there. Shiro smiled. So how exactly are you going to talk to the city lord? With Keiko's help. I'll just say that I know her and she can cover for me. But don't you still need to talk to the guards? It might take a while for you to actually get in. Who said that I'll be talking to the guards? Wait, what? I can just reappear in the room they're in right now and talk to them straight away now? I doubt Keiko would let the city lord harm me, so this is the fastest way. So that's what you mean by cover for you. Nimue sighed. Yup. Oh, also while we're talking, how's the fire spirit? Shiro asked curiously. It's maturing a little slowly. With me being water, Izul being forest, and you focusing on ice, we can't exactly help it grow fast. We can only wait for now. In that case, then can I get in to help? Hell no. Shocked at Nimue's sudden outburst, Shiro was a little confused. The problem with that is with the spirit's current state as well as its identity being that of an ancient fire. It would be highly nourishing for a phoenix like Een since it'll enhance their flames dramatically. The moment you present the spirit to Een, there's a high chance that she'll just instinctively consume it. Nimue replied, as there was no way she was going to let that gluttonous phoenix consume their spirit sibling. No wonder. To be fair, even if it was not nourishing, Een would have probably tried to eat it regardless. Shiro nodded while jumping towards the room. Exiting her rift, she was greeted by the smile of Keiko and a shocked face of the city lord. Before he could even pull out a sword, Keiko stopped him. Seems like you've been expecting me. Shiro smiled. I figured that you would come here after seeing the item. I was the same. Keiko smiled since she was also confused as to why the city lord would put such an item as a reward for the event. Now then, since the guest has arrived, why don't you educate us both on your choice, city lord? Keiko smiled toward the city lord. Furrowing his brows, he watched as Shiro sat down on a chair in the corner. While I do not appreciate you introducing a new guest at this point in time, I suppose someone as strong as her will need to know about this as well. He sighed. Do you believe in fortune tellers and news of other worlds? He asked seriously. Depends on the situation. Keiko shrugged. You see, a while back, I met a fortune teller who sent me on a small quest of sorts with the reward being the mythic skill stone. Back then, my thought was for me to use it myself, but as I continued on the quest, things started to become clear to me. The only reason she wanted to give the stone to me was so that I can present it to someone else when the time arrives. During the quest, I learned of the different worlds, queens of races, dungeons being the gateway along with a period of time to come called the Age of Demons and Gods. The demons have already arrived, hence the battle on the front lines, but this is only the scouts. Should the proper demons arrive, humanity would have been destroyed long ago. The gods, high-tiered entities that should be something around tier 8, would act as a final defense. As I completed the several tasks laid out to me by the fortune teller, I began to trust her word since I've seen things that shouldn't have been possible if not for her visions. Of course, it could all be an illusion, but I was actually sent to the different worlds you see. I would spend a period of time in each world and learn about their history. Some were much more advanced than ours while others were primitive. One of the worlds that stood out to me the most was called Arya. In that world, there were records of a being that could create anything from machinery with a wave of their hand. While the records were incomplete, I know that the being had fought against one of the gods chosen and lost, resulting in her death. Alvin explained as Shiro's breath halted for a moment. The fortune teller actually sent him to the future of my world. She thought in shock, realizing that this meant the fortune teller was most likely a Tier 7 entity. Shiro listened carefully for any clues that may help her in the future. After all, it seems like times were shifting as the age of demons and gods seemed to creep closer with every passing day. After my exploration of a few different worlds, I spent my time in this life building up some achievements for myself and claimed the position of the city lord as the fortune teller had instructed me. She would give me visions of what I should do to reach this stage, but as of recently, she only gave me a single letter before stopping all communications. And that letter was for me to use the mythic skill stone in the event and my role shall be over. Alvin shook his head and showed them the letter. Furrowing her brows, Shiro looked back at Alvin. Has she told you anything else about this coming age of demons and gods? She asked. A little. You see, the visions I received are a little like cut scenes. I can watch what's going on, but I cannot interact with it. I don't know what are the sources to the situation, nor do I know how to avoid them. I was only told that I should just follow my path in life and deliver the stone. Of course, even if I didn't, the stone would have found its way to the rightful owner in the end. Fate works in a strange way after all. Yeah, I get that, but I mean, what did you see in the visions? Shiro rolled her eyes since she wanted to get as much information as she could. Right about that. In the vision, the things I saw were a little limited. But I know that there are places in the current world that would be rendered to a lifeless wasteland where undead roam freely. Humans were being used as slaves while the monster races reigned supreme. There were a few safe houses for those that are weak, but it would become a fight or die situation every day. Not only that, but each monster race will also be governed by queens that can apparently sense when their subjects are being killed. Leveling up will become much harder for humans. Alvin shook his head. Were you able to see which queens were the biggest problems? Shiro asked as it was a good time to take a head count now. Not only that, when she made the contract with Nimue, her side of the bargain had it, so that she would help Nimue get her revenge by killing some of the queens. Unfortunately, no. There was a limit to how much I could see, and the main point of visions were to convince me of what was going to happen in the future should nothing be done. I see. That's unfortunate. Have you been able to track down the fortune teller, or did she completely cut off her connection with you? Shiro asked. I wasn't able to find her after the last letter. Alvin shook his head. Leaning back on her chair, Shiro sighed. You seem like you know a little about this. Keiko asked Shiro curiously. During the times that Alvin had talked about the coming age as well as other worlds, Shiro seemed to understand what he was talking about, as well as some details. Keiko, do you remember what had happened in Mount Fuji? Shiro asked as she turned to her. You mean the incident where the mountain was overrun by monsters? It was solved 2 months later, but no one knew why. Keiko nodded. You see, I was there. It was also there that I met the Queen of Ice, Kiona. She was leading the Snow Woman, and her goal in that place was for something called an anchor. I don't know what it is, but I think it has something to do with her crossing from her world to ours. She did say that there were other queens coming. Before I left the place, she gave me a warning about the age of demons and gods, but she didn't divulge more than needed. Shiro replied as Keiko furrowed her brows. Why didn't she attack you? From some of the clips I've seen, she is probably more than capable of taking you out, no offense. I wonder about that as well. But all I know is that a new age is coming and humanity might be screwed if we don't do anything. Shiro shrugged. True. I'll probably go back to Tokyo and ask for a world meeting of all the highest powers. Perhaps some of the hidden sects might even show up, who knows. Of course, that can wait after meeting your party. Keiko smiled. Amen. Oh, by the way, City Lord, why did the woman want you to give away the skill stone? Did she leave any message for you in regards to that? Well, she did give me a message, but I shall keep it to myself. She did warn me that the future may change if the reason was to be known. Talking for a little while, both Shiro and Keiko left the room and started to walk towards where the party was gathered. Looking back at the two, Alvin couldn't help but think back to what the woman had told him. It was a rather cryptic message, but that was only because he was only allowed to know the bare minimum. Maybe if he knew a little more, things might become clear. Ruler of worlds, traveling through the layers of incarnation. First as a demon, second as a human, and third as a deity. Could she be talking about reincarnation? Alvin wondered to himself before shaking his head. Nth Epsilon section. Looking down at the city, he wondered if he should retire now and go out into the world. After all, he had already passed on the item that the fortune teller had given to him. ####. Making their way towards the cafe, Keiko couldn't help but glance over Shiro. "How come you seem so calm with the situation?" she asked curiously. "Well, there's no point worrying mindlessly right now, is there? The most I can do is to get stronger and level up as much as I can in the time that we have, so that I have a better chance of surviving the new age. After all, if I spent the time that could be used to level up on worrying, I would only come to be annoyed at myself later." Shiro shrugged. Indeed. Keiko nodded. Every second counted right now, as she had already sent a message to her assistants to call for a world meeting so that they could discuss the things they can do in order to prepare for the age of demons and gods. Hopefully, they can stop being greedy and increase the overall level of humanity so that they can actually stand a chance. But with how some of the world leaders act, Keiko didn't have a positive outlook on the meeting. "Say, Keiko, what level are you right now? We don't know when the new age is arriving, so we should all class up and level up, including you." Shiro asked. "Me? I'm currently level 405. It is still a while away from the peak of Tier 5, but finding high-level dungeons isn't exactly easy. Plus, I'm somewhat stuck in Tokyo for the past few months due to some matters I needed to attend to, so I couldn't go to the front lines to farm for some EXP." Keiko replied. 405. To be fair, the best thing for us is to be Tier 8 gods by the time the new age arrives, but that's kind of a wishful thought. Tier 6 is a bare minimum, and Tier 7 is recommended, I think. For humanity to stand a chance, maybe all of the top fighters need to reach Tier 6. Shiro muttered, however, she knew how hard it was for people to reach Tier 6. Hell, even back in her old world, only she and the hero reached Tier 6 out of the entire populace, so one can imagine how hard it is to reach Tier 6. Uncle has been stuck at the peak of Tier 5 for a while now, so maybe he has a chance to reach Tier 6? Same with Auntie. Speaking of them, when will you visit them? I'm sure they miss you dearly. We'll see. I don't have my memories, and there are still a bunch of things I need to figure out." Shiro shook her head. Until she can resolve the gun pointing at the back of her head known as Duan Hanin, she wanted to avoid revealing her identity easily. Looking down on her hands, she clenched them into a fist as she knew that she had to reach her peak and go beyond in order to survive. Shaking her head, she continued to talk to Keiko while they walked towards the cafe at a rather leisurely pace. Arriving at the cafe, they saw the party sitting near the window. The first thing that Keiko saw was Een eating away as plates were stacked up high beside her. "Een, if you wanted to eat, you should have gone to a restaurant. This is a cafe," Shiro called out with a sigh. "Well, I just thought I might as well get some food since we're all here," Een replied while licking some cake off her fingers. "Well, anyway, this is my cousin, Keiko." Shiro shook her head and gestured towards Keiko. Looking at the woman beside Shiro, the party paused for a moment before widening their eyes. As adventurers, it was almost guaranteed that they knew what each of the faction leaders at the top of this world looked like. To see the assassin hero next to Shiro while she proclaimed that she was her cousin was akin to a meteorite smashing down on them. Wait. She's your cousin?" Shinyu asked in disbelief. "Yup, but you should probably come with me back to my room. I've got some important things to tell you all," Shiro said while looking around. She had already used her Fey illusions, so to anyone else, this would just look like a normal meeting and not one between her party and the assassin hero. "Oh, sure." Standing up, the party left the cafe and made their way towards her room. Upon arriving in the room, Shiro sat down on a chair and gestured for everyone to sit down. "Right then, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Keiko, and I'm Kuromi, or rather, Shiro's cousin. I'm also the leader of the Rising Sun faction that you may have run into back in Muriel." Keiko smiled as the party nodded. "Gee, Shiro, your family's more ridiculous than Lyrica's. Are me and Sylvia the only ones with a relatively normal background?" Madison asked with a raised eyebrow. "It's not a bad thing now, is it?" Shiro chuckled. True. So anyway, you wanted to talk to us about something important. Yeah, you can say it's about the future. Shiro nodded. For the next few minutes, she informed them all of all that she knew about the new age. How humanity would be suppressed as they would need to be at least tier 6 to stand a chance of survival. Hearing the news, they had a frown on their faces since this wasn't exactly the best situation. So I guess our next move is to class up as fast as possible then. Lyrica asked. MN, I still need to wait a month for the celestial trials to open, and even then, I'm not sure if I'm able to get all of the materials that I need. Shiro shook her head. If not for the fact that she had chosen such a troublesome class to level up into, she might have reached B rank already and saved Yuki from her prison. But as things stand, she'll be wasting another month and doing nothing. Anyways, while you talk about what you need to be doing in the next month, would it be okay if I took my niece to get some food at a restaurant? Keiko asked with a smile. I'll sure go for it. Listen to your aunt. Lysandra, if you want, you can also join her. Shiro nodded. As the three left the room, Shiro's face became serious. I think it's about time that the two of you also know the truth and why this next age is important. Remember how I told you that queens of different races will be suppressing humans from leveling up? Shiro said with a narrowed gaze towards both Aram and Chunyu. Yeah? What about it? Aram nodded. I'm going to be one of those queens. Due to some personal reasons, I would like it if none of the spirits are harmed since they've been enslaved for long enough. Though that's not to say that I will be going out of my way to hunt down anyone, Shiro said as she dispelled her disguise on her name tag. Shiro LVL 100 Mystic Sylph Queen. During my class up from level 50 to 51, my race changed from Snow Girl to Mystic Fae. And just in case you were still suspicious, yes, this means that I was a monster from the start. I began as a Snow Girl in New York. The host of this body, Kuromi, died in New York, so that's a whole different thing I need to deal with. Looking at Shiro with a raised eyebrow, Aram only chuckled. Well, I suppose that solidifies one of my other theories then. To be honest, I figured as much since your power is clearly abnormal for someone your level. It'll only make sense if you were a hero or a monster of the same level. Aram smiled. She didn't really mind Shiro being a monster since it just means that there was a chance she could learn some information about monsters that humans didn't know about. Ho, seems like you were prepared. What about you then, Shinyu? Are you going to report this back to be *starred Tian? Shiro asked. Even though Nantian already knew her identity as a monster, Chinyu doesn't. Depending on what he says, she might have to reconsider his allegiance. Looking down with a serious expression, Chinyu furrowed his brows for a moment before sighing. I just hope I won't get my ass killed by the branch master. To be honest with you, I've enjoyed my time much more in this party. Previously, every mission was somewhat dull as the other members are all focused on efficiency. So just in case I get some stupid task where I would need to try to slay you, I think I'll keep this to myself. Chinyu smiled honestly. There were two reasons for him to keep this. First being Sylvia, and second being that he didn't want to fight against Shiro. Welp, you heard that, ladies. Seems like we can trust our dear precious Sylvie to Lil Chin here. Shiro grinned as the other party members in the room chuckled. Hearing this, Sylvia only blushed and looked down. Though to be fair, Chinyu, Nantian already knows about my identity as a monster. He found out way back in New York when we first met. This is also why he had been calling my little Snow. Shiro rolled her eyes. *T someone is trying to get together with Shiro. Lyrica widened her eyes when she realized that Nantian must have his eyes on Shiro. I'll have to ask Chinyu about his details later so that I can prepare myself. Ignoring Lyrica's shocked reaction, Shiro turned back to Chinyu. So if you had told him, I would have needed to punish you a little. But you can rest easy now since you've passed my test. Oh, but you need to treat Sylvie with pure dedication, okay? If you make her sad, you make all of us angry. If you make her happy, you make all of us happy. Shiro smiled. Got it. Chinyu nodded while holding Sylvia's hand. Good. Anyways, let's talk about what we should do in the next month. Everyone here will focus on getting to B rank, and I'll be helping you out whenever I can. After that, I'll be heading back to Mount Fuji so that I can do my celestial trials in order to get the next class. During that time, all of you will be charging to level 200 so that you can then class up once more to a rank. Understand? Shiro grinned. Nodding their heads, the party had a determined gaze in their eyes as Shiro smiled in satisfaction. All right, while you girls do your rank up requirements, I got a few more people I need to talk to. Since Lucius was in the city, she might as well pay him back for stalking her back in Tokyo. On the other hand, there was also Isaac, who seemed to have a story of his own that she was rather curious about. Though if it wasn't anything important, she'd rather not interact with that massive masochist. Leaving the room, Shiro dashed through the city while reactivating her disguise on her name tag. After all, it would not be good for her to flaunt her identity as a monster in the city now, would it? Closing one of her eyes, she scanned the surrounding area and soon found Lucius' mana signature. Right now, he was in one of the hotels relaxing. This reminded her of the time when she walked in onto Chunyu after he had a shower. Let's just hope I don't walk in on Shadow B** starred naked, or else I might have to cut off something that ends his bloodline. Shiro muttered. Lucius, who was in his room, felt a shiver as he had no idea that a certain queen was making her way towards him.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.